holds a tremendous amount of promise.
Awesome, thank you, Robert. I could see another introduction on the chat. Hello everyone, my name is Aman and I'm working as a front-end developer in Singapore. Currently working on Flutter and creating mobile app, but looking forward to its support for web as well. That's awesome, thank you, Aman. Maureen, back to you.
Yeah, so we have another person called VK. Probably we can hear from him. If you can't hear us, let's hear another opinion about Flutter, the way Robert expressed himself. So let's hear this from Christoph. How do you feel about Flutter?
Well, I really like it. It's easy to pick up, easy to develop with. I was new to mobile development. I didn't do any Android or native development before, and I just started with Flutter, and it was very easy to pick up. I've already developed one app, did a few open source projects, and I really like it. It's very nice.
That's great to hear. So let's hear the same from Collins. What do you think about Flutter?
Okay, so personally, I'm new to Flutter actually. So for web, I'm interested in learning for web, but I know it's good more so in the part of design. It makes your app, or rather, whichever the kind of app you're creating, either web or Android app, makes your application more user-friendly. So which is why I'm also focusing on the design part of web applications, and I'm looking forward to see how to get started with Flutter, more so for web. I've been looking for online resources, more so the guide for Flutter, the original documentations, and sometimes they're a bit challenging. So the event will at least help me understand maybe how to get started and also create some of the attractive applications. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Collins. Okay, so we could move to, as we're waiting for Kamal, we can move to talking about Flutter communities and tell us a little bit about the Flutter community in your region. So I could start with Kendi. Would you tell us a bit about the Flutter community in Kenya, kindly?
In Kenya, I remember when we started Flutter Developers Kenya, it actually started as a joke. We weren't really serious about it. So we were like, there's a guy called Dennis Riongo, who is a community mentor. He was like, hey, there's this new, technology that's up, and whoever that feels like joining, you can just come, we create a community. That time I was so into communities, and I was like, let me give my shot. And when I went to approach him, he told me, you're actually the first person who's approached me to start a community, and I was so excited. So we kicked it off. We had our first meetup in December last year, but one. But then we decided to view it in a different approach. We decided to reach the DSC leads so that we can, have more students doing Flutter. So what we do is we approach the DSC leads, tell them, hey, we would like to host a meetup in your campus. What do you think? And everybody, we are all growing as a community and developers. So that's how we kicked it off. And so far, I'm enjoying everything. And today, I'm really looking forward to what we're going to learn. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And just one more question for you. What are the kind of challenges you face for communities like the Flutter community? Are there any challenges you faced so far? If you could share that with us, that would be great.
There are a lot of challenges. One, I remember there's this very, very close friend who was like, you guys are just rushing into the glittery technology. And to be honest, that was really rude. But, if you have a faint heart, you just stop. But if you know what you're really doing, and you're interested in your technology, and you've seen how this thing is working out very well, you just don't listen to what people are saying out there. And also, people are looking at you, they're like, so you keep hosting these meetups but you don't really know anything. As a community lead, you don't have to know everything. Your major role is bringing different developers together to teach all of you, because at the end of it, everyone is still learning. So yeah, kind of those things.
Okay, so on the flip side, they actually acknowledge that it's a glittery technology. So that's a good thing. That's a compliment. All right, so I could pick someone random to tell us about their community on the region. How about Robert? Robert, where are you from? Could you tell us a little bit about the Flutter community in your region, kindly?
Sure. I'm from the greater Boston area in Massachusetts, United States. The Flutter community actually out here is very loose and very dispersed. We don't really have any central focus or meetup where people actually get together. Some of the local Google Developer Group conferences or groups have been kind enough to occasionally sponsor Flutter-related events. GDG Lawrence, GDG Manchester up in New Hampshire, and most recently GDG Boston Android had Flutter Night, which was a really nice meetup. But really, there are fairly few, well, there's no organized Flutter community here, but it's, I think, going to be starting increasingly, largely under the umbrella of the Android community. But I can hope it forms its own identity in the relatively near future. It's a growing technology. We have a few people who are actively employed working on it that I've become aware of in the greater Boston area. Some, started their own startups and have decided, having built iOS and started to build Android, they decided, heck with that. I'm not building this twice. I'm going to learn Flutter and use that to kill both birds with one stone. But so startups are using it to some extent. Two medical related companies I'm aware of, but it's quite sparse here in this particular area. There's a good deal more, I gather, in New York, and certainly in Europe. London and Berlin have both been great meetups to attend, and the Flutter Zurich meetup just the other day was a heck of a lot of fun. Since we're all able to go to worldwide meetups at this point, I'd actively suggest Zurich. They're a nice group of people.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Robert. That was a good introduction for your community. So, could you tell us about the one time you faced a really great challenge in Flutter? Not specifically related to the community, but maybe even on a personal basis. And what was it? Could it be documentation? Was it anything, literally?
Is that question only for Robert or is for everyone?
If there's anyone who could feel free to answer that, that would be okay.
I do have a quick answer to the question. Knowing where I am in learning Flutter was a significant challenge because, you know, the app brewery course takes you a certain ways, but not all the way to being able to build a full production app. It's a great introduction. I like it a lot. Excellent for true beginners. More experienced people may find some of it a little boring, but you can power through it. And it's well designed. But it doesn't take you all the way. And after I was done with that, I looked on the web and, oh my God, there were so many resources, so many different things competing for attention. I didn't know where to go. I finally found one guy had written a Flutter learning roadmap, which, although I can argue with a good deal of it, it's at least one path that defines all the areas you need to know, in this guy's opinion, to get an app into the Play Store and to have all your basics covered. And looking through which ones have I ticked off, which ones have I done partly, which ones have I not touched, that was incredibly helpful to find that resource. And I'll try and grab the link and drop it into the chat so other people can look at it. Now, again, there is no one true way to learn Flutter. This is simply a roadmap that you can place yourself on and that I found helpful. And one of the challenges about learning Flutter is simply once you're done with the basics, where do you go there?
Awesome. I'm pretty sure other people have also experienced the same. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. So I'm going to just leave an open platform for anyone who wants or who feels like sharing their experience with Flutter specifically or within the Flutter community. Please kindly feel free. We're still having some technical difficulties with Kamal joining, trying to fix that. But for now, it's just an open platform. I mean, there's such, what excites me about this call, I mean, there's so much diversity here. I can see people from all walks of life, so it'll be great if we get to know each other. So anyone, feel free, feel at home, tell us anything.
Okay.
Again, my name is Danvik. As I said, I'm part of the Flutter developers team in Kenya. I think one of the biggest challenges I faced is that when I was starting to do Flutter, I needed some kind of plugin to handle forms. That was something that was not there in Flutter at that stage. I think it was around mid 2018. After learning Flutter for a bit, I wanted to do it on a major project. My background actually was in web, and I've been doing some things like Ionic and NativeScript, and they kind of disappointed me. So instead of, after hustling a bit, I decided to write a package for development of forms in Flutter. And actually, it has been a great learning platform because from open source, you learn a lot. You get to interact with people. They give you challenges by requesting new features. And I think that has helped my fast-paced develop has helped me like learn Flutter very fast. And I really appreciate the community. That's one of the reasons why I found it interesting to be part of communities. So after doing that for a while, I decided let me join the Flutter development team in Kenya. I'm also part of the organizing team for Droidcon KE, which is the Droidcon chapter in Kenya, as Candy had introduced. So I think that is part of my experience with Flutter. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dan. Anyone else? Feel free.
Yeah, so mine is more of a question to just everyone, anyone who can pick this up. What's the most exciting thing that you've ever done with Flutter that you never thought was just possible, or it can take you so long to try and achieve with the native way or the cross-platform way? Anything exciting that you've ever done with Flutter? So just an update, just an update on the same. The speaker, she's trying to join, but she's dropping out. Still trying to understand why, but we hope she'll be with us very soon. Okay, so let's just have that discussion right now. What's the most exciting thing you've ever done with Flutter? Or you can share your GitHub page or the application if it's open and free to everyone else while we try to sort this out. So just feel free, just pick up and feel free. Just unmute and speak. Anything exciting you've ever done in Flutter? Okay, should we do another random name picking?
Yes. Let's do that.
Okay. Already shared. Let's see. Who's confident enough before I do a random pick? Feel free to skip. If you don't want, just say pass. We can go to Santosh M. If you can hear me. You're muted if you're speaking. All right. Tim Reynolds. Okay. Tim is still muted. Divine, you're here. I think you're the first person to join. Do you have anything to share with us? I'm starting to doubt if anyone can hear me here. Can anyone hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Oh, Divine's microphone is not working. Let's see. Aman? Okay, this is a bad idea. Just trying
There
to
was
mention.
Sigu.
Yeah, go on.
There was also an introduction from a bird. I think we did see it. The one from Germany. He's saying that he's quite happy with the things he was able to do with Flutter, like building visualization for traces recorded in electronic devices. Also wrote a package to utilize VegaLite in Flutter Web, currently experimenting the flat buffers for communication layer, and he's happy to be part of the community. I think he's doing a great thing. Can we hear this from him?
Yeah, we can give them a chance here to share if they're willing to share that with us. Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah, hi, this is Abhilash. I hope you're all able to hear me.
Yes, we can.
Had a note from Robert. Yeah, I was kind of quite new to Flutter last year, but I got introduced from a friend of mine. And I took a student job at this company that kind of works on cryptography and analyzes these measurements from these electronic devices. And I was assigned a task to build some sort of a front end for this. And I was lucky enough to be able to experiment with Flutter Web for this project. And I used Plotly and integrations for the Flutter Web, and quite happy with the way the project worked up for me, and presently I'm working with my master thesis, where I'm trying to build some sort of a visualization for machine learning models and its interpretations, again using Flutter Web. And yeah, that's more or less what I've done so far in the last 1 year. And I've been quite active in Stack Overflow, and I have a lot of people whom I follow in Twitter. And I think Twitter is a good area where people should look at if you're getting into Flutter, because there are quite a lot of good people sharing great resources in Twitter, and that's all about. Was it okay? Great, thank you.
That was perfect. Thank you so much.
Probably you could also tell us how long did it take you to build the Flutter package that you just mentioned in the chat? And what advice can you give to any Flutter developer or any newbie? Yeah.
For anyone, I think Flutter is one of the UI framework that you could pick up in just almost like the first day itself, because Flutter has one of the best documentation out there. And if you're already experimented with a lot of different UIs and strategies, then I would suggest like building packages would be straightforward, but it will have its own pitfall, because like there are quite a lot of packages out there, so you should better check if everything is already out there. If it is not there, then better invest time in building what you think might be useful for other people. Personally, I took like a week or so to just wrap my mind around this JavaScript package that I wanted to be able to put it for Flutter Web. I did this because there are not many charting libraries for Flutter. It is there, but it doesn't quite work well with Flutter Web. So until a better charting library comes for Flutter Web, I would suggest go with the time-tested libraries like Plotly or Vega or something like that. That's why I did that. Yeah.
Well, that's great. Yeah. So how many packages do you have at the moment?
Okay, I'm not a package builder. I think I have.
And another question is, how long does any package get? How long does it take for the Flutter team to approve any Flutter package?
I mean, there's no approval process as far as I've seen it, as long as it's the community. I mean, I have this Vega package like there for quite some time. I don't think anybody uses it quite often, but if it is well received, it would see like, I think there is no approval process as far as I know. It just goes in and there is some sort of analysis that's done, and there is a scoring mechanism behind it. Apart from that, there is nothing. It's quite straightforward.
Wow, so I think that's a great experience. I've also seen Dan Rick Miller sending some packages. Have you also built some of them, Dan?
I've used not all of them, but some of them like Dio, Flutterblock. I don't know what the testing framework is, not all of them. Well, Flutter allows you to package even a small widget and publish it as a package. So there is, just like NPM, you could just wrap any widget that you find, like custom widget that you find useful, and wrap it as a package and publish it. And that's what I did with one something called number increment decrement. I saw a lot of people like the Stack Overflow answer that I wrote, and I just wrapped it as a package and published it. It was as simple as that.
Yeah, so as for me, it was more of something that, in fact, one of the major projects I did in Flutter was actually the package, because I didn't even have one single Flutter app done by that time. It's just that while looking at Flutter, I discovered that it had some shortfalls since it was a new tech. So back in 2018, it has been a learning. In fact, I've learned more of Flutter from building that package and also from, say, YouTube and whatnot. So I've done 2 packages. One is called Flutter Form Builder, which just assists in making forms in Flutter, since most apps that are there in the market are actually just crude, just create, delete, update, and whatnot. So I thought that forms were quite a useful thing, and the way they've been done in Flutter, the options are too many that sometimes it's hard for someone who is new to come in and start working. So I thought that is also another gap I could fill. There was also another package that I've done that is called Flutter Chips Input, which just allows you to put chips, to enter like the material chips, use it as a form of input, which kinda, it was a question on Stack Overflow and someone had answered it, so I just took it up and used it, and also just saw what I could do to improve it. After improving it for a while, the answer for a while, I decided, let me just package it, since there was no similar package on Pub yet. So I just packaged it and rolled it out. So that was my experience. Thank you.
Great.
All right, so I can also see some, it's a Tim, you're unable to unmute your microphone, but he's saying that he built a news application. There's a link on the chat. The app is still in beta, but it will be released to production soon. Then you can have a look at the application on the Google Play Store. There's also a link over there. Yeah, these are great stories of people building Flutter applications. Any other person who can share with us what they've built? Even a toy application. Any experience on that? My experience is not the best experience. So yeah, people are having very nice stories of how Flutter is good and all that. But the mental shift that you have to do for you to understand how Flutter works, honestly, on my end, it's not the best. And I really had to twist my mind and try and understand things from the widgets perspective. It's not the easiest thing you can try and do for a web developer mostly, because I majorly I major on the web. So when I tried to work with Flutter, just trying to think of things in terms of widgets was not the easiest. So if anyone is willing, you can just tell me, how did you manage to think of things in terms of the Flutter way?
I'll take a quick crack at that. Coming from an Android background, a widget is not dissimilar to a custom view. Have you ever worked with React components, Sigu? Because
yes,
my understanding is a React component is not unlike a widget. But they're not composed in the same way the widget tree is. I will say one thing that took me a little wrapping around was the notion of things like going out and getting information with a widget. That was going to be that was how you went and acquired some information to wrap the things inside it. But there are alternatives to doing it that way. So I'm not sure I can give you anything very helpful on that one. Practice. But every shift in platform involves some paradigmatic shift. And paradigms are always the hardest thing to get. I remember when people transitioned from C to C++, it would take them about 5 years of writing C++ code badly. The C++ code that resembled C before they finally got it and were writing good object-oriented C++ code, because the OO shift was really hard on a lot of people. I don't think you're going to find Flutter that difficult.
Yeah. So talking about that, it's actually interesting because on the web, I actually do more of functional programming. So doing a shift to that which is OOP and trying to do things in widgets, I think that's the most confusing thing that's happening to me then. But
that makes
yeah.
perfect sense.
Yeah.
You may also find it more similar to domain-specific languages, which are often very compositional and declarative. You know, you're also hitting the declarative hump, because if you're even functional is imperative code.
Yeah.
Do this, do this, do this, do this. But declarative code is well, actually, I'm wrong about that. Functional is its own world. It's not that imperative. It's an alternative to the imperative style. But the declarative style is different yet again. Good luck.
Yeah. Yeah. So the shift is not the easiest, but yeah, I'll try it again. I tried it in 2018. Did it a bit with Maureen. I tried it again. Did it with Lincoln. They are all in this chat, but I've just never wrapped my head around it. I'm going to give it another try, not the final one, but
No.
I'm going to give it another try and just see how really to do a mental shift on that.
Something funny I can say about this is Sigu introduced me to Flutter, yet he didn't know anything to it. So he was just giving me resources, using his general programming knowledge, telling me, refer to this, refer to this. So, and in the long run, he can't do Flutter. So that's what I've never understood at all.
Yeah, so with the general programming knowledge that you have, you always know where to point people to, and you know where to point yourself to. But once you get to that point, you already have some formed way of doing things, and you've done it for long enough. You can't really just understand that. For you, you are a bit not really deep into a particular paradigm. So doing the understanding of that was quite easy for you. I think that's the case.
Yeah. Then again, coming from Android to Flutter, I found Flutter simpler.
Yeah. All right, I'm just wondering, am I the only one who had the paradigm shift problem, or there's any other person who had that problem, and how did they encounter that? Because Flutter is is relatively new. Okay, I think silence means everyone is enjoying Flutter. Flutter is okay. Nothing really, no blockers or something. Any problem with upgrades or something? Have you ever upgraded Flutter and things just stop working?
I think it did once for me, but that was quite a long time only for Flutter Web. But it was just a minor issue with their release, and there was a hot fix like in 2 weeks. 1 week or so. But apart from that, I never faced any issues with Flutter Web at least.
Okay, awesome. So that means that the Flutter API is pretty stable, and not so much deprecations being done when for new releases.
True.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
But I do think there is some recently for the current release. I think there was some changes for the material related. Like I think the variables have changed. The theming part has changed quite a lot. But again, it's more like a simple refactoring than breaking changes, I would say.
All right. So no major deprecations for that.
No major deprecations. No.
All right.
Well, it's relatively new for even thinking about deprecation, I would say.
Yeah, that happens in a lot of languages. The languages, if you've ever worked with a language like Elm or a framework like Elm, whenever Ivan comes up with a new release, which is not even 1 point, it's just from 0.16 to 0.17, you
Yeah.
cannot use the packages on the 0.16. Everything is just broken completely. Yeah, so it's an impressive thing. It's something that people need to appreciate, really, if it happens.
I think that simply means Elm kind of framework, they're probably not following the semantic versioning. Like, I think Flutter strictly follows that. Unless there is a breaking change, they would not change the, I think all those point number changes are like minor changes, and it should technically not break anything. That's the promise they give. But if they switch to, say, for example, 2.0, then there is some major breaking changes where everybody should consider it.
Okay. So now that we just deep into these conversations, these are all opinions and everything. So another fear that I usually have with Flutter is Google. So if we look back to something like what was the name of that again?
Polymer.
Yes. Yes. So I usually ask myself, is Flutter another Polymer? And are we going to do? I can see Robert shaking his head. No, it's not. So are we going to have another Polymer in the next 5-6 years, and we have to do a rewrite of everything again?
I'll throw my 2 cents in again. Entirely opinion. Google can always change its mind, even if we accurately predict what it is thinking now. One, Polymer didn't last as long as Flutter has already. At least that was my memory of it. It did not last particularly long. Now, one thing here's an abandonware story I'll go back to with Google. Dart. Dart was started as a sort of pre-TypeScript TypeScript.
A replacement for JavaScript.
A replacement for JavaScript. It tanked totally. No adoption. There were a couple of nice books about it. I don't have a copy, but I always admired the title of Dart for Hipsters. But it failed. It did not get traction. Google, however, did not abandon it. They still use Angular Dart inside Google. I know people who use it for a living. And if I had to speculate about what Google's intentions are, I think their idea is to replace Angular Dart with Flutter Web. And when they do that, when they deprecate their internal Angular Dart work with Flutter Web, I think we're going to see a pretty much guarantee that Flutter will not die, or at least until some other new hotness comes to replace it. But it will, if they make that step, and they have not done it yet, if they make that step, then I think we've got a pretty rock solid guarantee that it's going to be around a while, even if it's only for Google internal apps. And I don't think the opportunity to work for Google is the worst possibility in the world.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I also have this question. So what do you think about the Fuchsia, the OS that Google is coming up with, that I think its UI is written in Flutter? What do you think about it?
I'll throw my 2 cents in quickly on that one also. Flutter is an amazing marketing bet for whether or not Fuchsia will ever happen. By releasing Flutter when they did, and by trying to build an app community around it, by building apps, they can release an operating system which has applications that are already ready to run on it. That's always been the big challenge of releasing a new OS platform. There are no apps unless you've gone out and you've done a lot of community outreach, paid a lot of companies with popular apps to move to your new operating system. A new OS is a tremendous economic risk for a company. It's not a great bet. However, if they can get people to build Flutter apps that will run, they can then release Fuchsia with no risk on that score. And I think that was genius. To market something as a cross-platform tool for the existing platforms with the intent of eventually introducing a new platform and stealing all those apps to run on that. Wow. Now, again, I'm purely mind reading. This is utter Kremlinology and speculation about what Google actually had in mind. But I can see how those things might fit together. In terms of tangible, whether or not, I mean, Fuchsia is a real thing. It's just not released yet. There was speculation when it came out that it was just going to be another throwaway experiment. And there were some declarations at the time, no, we're not abandoning this, at least not yet. But where they go with it, what its actual ultimate application is, whether it's a replacement for Android, I don't think so, or it's something that'll run on the Internet of Things, there are possibilities. And it's intriguing. I'm looking forward to finding out.
Yeah.
Awesome insights, Robert. Maureen?
Yes?
I think at this point it's pretty much late, so just an update on the same. We can continue with this discussion, but just to update you on the speaker story, she's completely unable to join for the moment, so we're going to reschedule this. We really apologize. It's a technical difficulty that we could not control. We've tried our best. Thank you very much, guys, for being this patient. It's almost 50 minutes gone by. Thank you very much for being patient. We're going to reschedule this. We hope you'll allow us to re-communicate with you on the same when she'll be ready. So we're just going to make sure that everything is okay. We'll let you know whether we're going to have this after a week or 2 or a month, but we'll try and have it as soon as possible. Yes, we will do. Okay. Yeah, we will re-communicate with you about it. But does that not mean that this is the end of this? We can continue our conversations.
Yeah, that's great. So I have this question. Is there anyone who has tried Flutter for Web? Do you have any apps with Flutter for Web? What's your opinion about Flutter for Web? Yeah. Let's hear the insights.
Flutter for Web, I would say, has quite a lot of bottlenecks still to be cleared, especially in the terms of performance and the UI jankiness and stuff like that. I mean, these are all the technical terms the team itself by themselves use it. But there is a nice talk from the person called Kevin Moore, who actually, I think he's the guy who wrote the part where it converts the Flutter code into your web code, or like everything into Canvas and stuff like that. And he explains the morale behind it, why it was done like that and stuff. But there are still a lot of things that a web developer would expect it from Flutter Web, and it would not happen. Say, for example, if you want to access a DOM element, or just go ahead and try to add a div element to your Flutter Web page, it's not that straightforward unless you have, let's say, for example, you have an image and you want to add a title to it, like below it or above it. It's not that straightforward because you cannot find the element that you want to manipulate. So DOM manipulation is one of the things that is still not straightforward in Flutter Web, I would say. They have something called HTML element view, where you can add your own type of elements and stuff like that, but that goes behind the shadow DOM. There's a terminology called shadow DOM, which is basically what Polymer and web components do. And these elements are not directly accessible from the main root and you have to do some sort of go into the shadow DOM element and then access the element and stuff like that. It's not straightforward, and if you're coming from a web background, you would feel like, okay, that's not what I want. It's not that straightforward. Most of the solutions that they provide is like go with an iframe to render whatever you want and stuff like that. But that's, anybody in that would know, no, I don't want to use iframe to show whatever I want. And it's still technically in beta, and I think we should wait at least for a year or so to see some, user-friendly or even public-facing web portals and built using Flutter. It's not scalable and stuff like that, so it has to be, you have to wait for it. But definitely it's not stopping you from experimenting with it. Personally, I do it like kind of every day. Flutter Web is my go-to thing to do almost anything, and I love it. But it's not yet something that you can say confidently, yes, you can go with it into production and stuff like that. It's still, you have to play with it. If you're up for a challenge, definitely go for it. Otherwise, play safe.
I think that's a great insight from you. So could we have another one from Kendi? Kendi, please tell us what you've done with Flutter for Web or just Flutter in general. Do you have an app in Play Store or if anything?
Yes, just a moment, please. Okay, so personally, I haven't played around Flutter for Web. It's quite a shame for me, I know. But Flutter for mobile application, yes, I have. I actually have an application on Play Store. It's a floral application, mostly indoor decoration application on Play Store. Sorry, I've forgotten your question. Please ask again.
It was just about your take on Flutter for Web or if you have tried it out. And I think you've done it.
No, okay, Flutter for Web, no. But for mobile, yes. And also doing a lot of community on Flutter.
Yeah, I think that's a great point from her. So the meeting was scheduled to end at 3 p.m. So we have 2 minutes left. Do we have anyone who has anything interesting to tell us about Flutter as we wind up? I'm so sorry for the inconveniences that have happened because of technical issues. So we'll communicate on the date to reschedule the event. Kamal is pretty much sorry for this, and she'll be much excited to see you in the next one. Yeah, we'll do all the checks right before. So Collins Juma, you were trying to say something?
Oh, yeah, it's okay. I wanted to ask a question about Flutter for Web. Maybe like for most front-end frameworks like Angular, Vue, React, you can incorporate some of the backend technologies like Laravel or Node.js. So how about Flutter for Web? Which backend technology can you use? Is it same as Node.js, Laravel, or anybody who has maybe tried working with it?
I can jump in.
Which backend? Yeah, Sigu?
Yes, Colin, sorry. So let me jump into this. I've not used Flutter for Web, but what I know about for the few years that I've done web development, front-end
Yes.
completely detached from the backend. The front-end doesn't care about the backend. There are those that play nice, but as long as you can do an API integration, they never really care about the backend. So if you can build something on Flutter for the web, which means it just runs on your browser. Then your browser can communicate to your server somewhere else, irrespective of its language, irrespective of its architecture. Whether you're using GraphQL or REST, as long as your server on the other side is able to receive, process the request, and respond back. It doesn't.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think that's a great insight. Abhilash, you wanted to add something?
I just want to reiterate whatever Sigu said, because the backend doesn't matter. For example, whatever I used was based on Python. I have a backend server running in Python, which serves the API is exposed via GraphQL, and my front end is Flutter Web. It plays along quite well, including Flutter, GraphQL subscriptions and etc. I even tried something with Node.js. It works quite well. Whatnot, you can even develop a database web server. I'm not quite sure. I think it's Aqueduct. It's the library. So it all matters. Like if you want to only proceed in Dart-based code base, maybe you can even write your backend server with Dart. And yeah, you can pretty much do anything with Dart in that case. You can build your front end with Dart, back end with Dart, or choose your language, whichever is comfortable for you or your backend developers, as long as the API is exposed. So it's straightforward.
Yeah. Just to add on top of that, if you're going with Dart, be prepared. It's not tried and tested for the backend.
That's true.
Yeah, so you may not have the best experience. My advice is just use whatever everyone else uses for their backend. By everyone else, I mean you can go for Java, Ruby, Python, Elixir, whatever it is that is proven and tested to work on the backend.
True.
Facebook is using PHP. You don't really need to. You can use PHP for that. You can use Scala. You can use anything that pretty much works. All right.
Great.
Yeah, that's great. So I think we can just end the meeting. Sigu, you want to say something?
No. I'm done. Nice to meet you, Robert. Nice to meet you. Sorry, I'm not going to be able to pronounce your name well. Abhilash?
Yeah, perfect. Abhilash, yeah.
Oh,
thank you, Sigu.
Shai.
Great.
Did I mention it right?
Sorry?
Shai.
Shai, yeah.
Yeah. I hope I mentioned that right. Collins Juma, I'm pretty sure I've mentioned it right. Morino Nyango, Kendi, Jackie, Santosh, Sigu Magwa, that's me again. And Ram Kumar. Pleasure meeting you all. Hope to see you on the next meetup.
It was a pleasure meeting you all. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye.
Bye. Thank you, guys.